Today on the Sovereign Sisterhood Movement podcast, we have got a powerful show ahead of us as we dive deep first into the astrological update of the week, which is all about this very powerful new moon solar eclipse happening this week, and also Pluto's final days in Capricorn. What this means for you, for your relationships, for karmic justice, and for reclaiming your sovereign power. Then we're going to look at the generational healing segment, where we're going to uncover the hidden impact of emotional suppression on your nervous system, on your brain, and how this silent epidemic is literally passed down through generations, causing incredible traumatic havoc on our lives. Finally, we're going to wrap up with this week's powerful ancestral tarot guidance, offering very important guidance as to how to navigate these very intense energies of the eclipse that we're moving into so that you can make empowered choices and stop repeating the pattern. So if this all resonates and sounds good to you, well, then stay tuned to this episode of the Sovereign Sisterhood Movement podcast. Satnam and welcome, all of my beautiful sovereign sisters in the world. We have a lot to cover today, so I want to get right into it by beginning with this first part of the podcast episode today involving the astrology of the week, because this week's transits are one of a kind. They're not only unique, but they're really pushing you to make very important decisions about your life, which means your life will never, ever be the same again. These cosmic events that I want to talk about today, they're bringing a ton of karmic shifts, lots of deep revelations about power and relationships. So if you're ready to align with what we're working with this astrological incredible shower of opportunities, then let's dive into it. The first thing that I want to go over this week, and regardless of when you are listening to this podcast episode, these episodes are timeless. They come to you exactly when you need them. So even if you're listening to this or watching this months later, that's when the information was ready to be received by you. But of course, if you're listening during this first week of October, this last day of September, then you have to pay attention to what's happening energetically in your lives because of this eclipse. The first thing that I want to focus on is this new moon solar eclipse happening in Libra, happening on Wednesday, October 2nd, which closes off this eclipse cycle that we just went through. It started with the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces that occurred on September 17th, late September 17th. And now, because the eclipses come in pairs, we're bringing this cycle to a close with this new moon solar eclipse in Libra. And this is very impactful. And even though we know solar eclipses, new moons are all about major new beginnings, this one not only is a major new beginning, but it has to also include the major closing of something else in your life. You see, solar eclipses in general, they occur during a new moon. So when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, that's when we have a new moon solar eclipse. And they're associated, like I said, with new beginnings, with fresh starts, with a lot of external events that influence our inner world. They tend to bring lots of sudden changes, opportunities, and what I would call revelations, breakthroughs, truth. A lot of people don't like to see or hear the truth because it messes with their cognitive function, meaning of the brain, meaning they don't want to change their lifestyle or their beliefs. It's uncomfortable for them, so they'd rather stay in the dark. The whole thing with eclipses is that they're eclipsing and bringing to the light whatever was hidden in the subconscious, where with eclipses we can actually feel this newness of a new chapter in our life, especially where this energetic eclipse, the life is hitting on your astrological chart. But also it's more about us being impacted by the way that these solar eclipses liberate us, the way that they can help us through the truth, through what is being eclipsed and exposed, really bring us into our own truth without living a facade, without repeating the same patterns that we unconsciously live through. So solar eclipses, they become really powerful like portals because of the way the energy is being projected onto Mother Earth. They create these angles, these portals in essence, where we can use these times to meditate, to do the inner work of reflection. Why? so that we can elevate our consciousness, so that we can stop the pattern, so that we can become aware of the subconscious mind and how it governs our lives. So with these solar eclipses, although they're different than a full moon eclipse being more of the closing and culmination and ending of a chapter, these solar eclipses really bring this nature of change in a way that brings new beginnings, but at the same time affect our visibility, meaning things are more noticeable, things are coming to the light, they feel more stressful just because of the fact that there are a lot of things that we would rather not be aware of. There are a lot of things that we would rather pretend like don't exist or that we don't feel. And because this solar eclipse particularly is in the sign of Libra, and I laugh because the sign of Libra is balance, harmony, and relationships and justice. And think about what's happening in the world right now. This solar eclipse, new moon in Libra, is only going to continue to expose where there has been abuse, justice, where there has been things out of harmony in whatever was done in the dark. So why do you think we have all these situations where literally Hollywood is completely falling apart in front of us? Why are these people that have been predators for such a long time now being exposed, and why is this all happening, especially during this time? Well, this Libra solar eclipse is a big part of it. And not only that, but you have to remember that Pluto, the planet of destruction, has been in Capricorn for 16 years. And right now it's at the last days of being in Capricorn before it leaves and doesn't come back to Capricorn for another 243 years. So while this solar new moon eclipse in Libra is bringing justice, balance to what is imbalance, especially as it relates to your relationships, your most intimate relationships. Why? Because Venus is involved. Venus is the ruler of Libra. More importantly, Venus is very active during this eclipse. And Venus right now is in Scorpio. And Venus doesn't necessarily like to be in Scorpio, because now we're talking about really taboo, intimate relationships that we're reckoning with. But combined with that and the last days that Pluto is in Capricorn and has been teaching us all these hard lessons about power, control since 2008, as the planet of transformation, as we're going through this eclipse, guess what? The truth is being revealed as to where people were abusing their power in relationships. That's why we see all of these exposures of celebrities and really the entire Hollywood industry. That was one of the things that I was talking about this morning in Sadhana, in my community Sadhana for my women's community. I have a group coaching program, Generational Healing, the Sovereign Sisterhood Academy. That one's not open for enrollment, but we also have a community for those women that are just now beginning on their generational healing journey to raise their vitality. And that is Satori Vitality and Spirituality. That one is open for enrollment. So I'll post the link below in the description in case you're interested in joining us there. I would highly suggest that also, if you're new to generational healing, that you actually start even in our free private Facebook group. So you can get more information about what generational healing is about, start to really understand the holistic approach that I teach of Kundalini Yoga Therapy and A Course in Miracles Spiritual Psychotherapy, to see if it even fits and aligns with who you are. So I'll post that description below too, that you can find us on Facebook at the Sovereign Sisterhood Movement. And this is a private group for women just now beginning, completely complimentary, beginning their journey of healing. And one of the things that I was sharing in Community Sadhana this morning is that those people that have been really abusing their power as it relates, especially in relationships, all of that is now about facing that karma, where karma is due. Pluto is the archetype of the underworld. There's no escaping the transformative energy, especially when it comes to the misuse of power. And think about the government officials, the athletes, the celebrities, all who are being exposed for the ways that they sold their soul to the devil. That's really what was happening. If you are someone, this is one of the biggest things that I was talking about in my community sadhana this morning. if you are someone who hasn't learned the lesson of what this is all teaching us, and this is not for us to feel good about other people being arrested and now going to jail and all that. No, I have compassion, because I think all of us in our lives, we've all in one way, shape, or another seeked power, or we wanted fame. Fame meaning maybe you didn't want to be a famous TV star, but you wanted the approval of your mom, or you wanted the approval of society, or the approval of your high school friends, whatever that was. That's seeking fame. Why? Because you don't know who you are. That's the big problem. All of these people, let's say some of them were talented. Most of them were not. The only reason why they got up to these very high levels is because they knew someone and they did something, sold out their soul in order to become famous. And a lot of them, of course, were taken advantage of because they were young. They didn't know any better and they were put in these situations. But remember, your energy created those situations. And I'm not here to say we blame the victims, but they are, and there is no victims here at all. No one's a victim, because now those people that fell into those situations where they were told, hey, in order for you to be famous, you got to do this, and then they did it, and now they feel victimized. That's not a role you want to take on right now. In any case, whatever happened to you in your life, victimhood is only going to bury you deeper into the whole blame game. We need to have compassion for ourselves and for others, but we need to learn these lessons. And Pluto being now getting ready to go direct in Capricorn for the last few days before it leaves, it's like, where have you chased after fame? Why do you still need approval? And this is causing a lot of tension during the solar eclipse in Libra, because Libra is bringing justice and harmony where there wasn't harmony. So you're becoming aware, maybe you're even triggered, or you're thinking about something that happened in the past where there was an abuse of power, where you need to reflect if that's really the truth now or if it's just your PTSD. But also, instead of just pointing the finger, in what ways do you constantly seek fame, power? Where do you not know that you are powerful already, that you are worthy? Why do you need the approval of others? And of course, that comes with a lot of generational trauma, which we're going to talk about here in a few moments, especially as it comes to emotional suppression. But as above, so below, we're experiencing the final reckoning of Pluto and Capricorn. And it's showing us that chasing fame and power without a solid foundation of self-belief, of knowing you already are worthy, is like selling your soul to the devil. That the external success might come, but without inner integrity, you're going to feel hollow, empty, lost, and broken. And this lesson has been especially strong in the age of social media, where viral fame has become the new gold rush. I think about people like, there's videos out there, you want to go viral, you do this, you do that. It's like the Willy Wonka golden ticket that these kids greedily chased after. What is it costing you? In Pluto's final days in Capricorn, it's asking you to reflect on this, where you may have sought external validation instead of cultivating inner strength, inner power. Have you been chasing success or recognition at the expense of your authenticity? I did for a long time. That is what led to my spiritual awakening in 2008, because I was seeking power and approval. And yes, I got the fame in the industry where I was. Yes, I got a powerful leadership positions, but sacrificing that at the expense of my own authenticity was causing me to go into these spirals of addiction of alcohol. I almost lost my most beautiful, precious legacy, my own family, because my ego was so inflated. Thank God I learned those lessons in 2008, in 2013, so that now as I step into my true spiritual power, I have nothing to fear. And I can easily stand outside and with compassion, see what's happening to the world. How so many people don't know who they are. And because of that, they're chasing this golden ticket that will ultimately be their demise. That's what's happening right now. No one's getting punished. Karma is not punishment. Karma is, if you gave love, that's what you're going to get back. But if you didn't give love, then you're not going to get that back. This is a perfect universe. So as we move through this solar eclipse, what's happening is Libra, the archetype, the diplomat of the archetype, excuse me, seeking to create peace and fairness, and under this eclipse, justice. and more than just in realignment. If there has been abuse of power in your relationships, be it personal, professional, even ancestral, this eclipse is bringing karmic retribution. So this isn't to punish, it's to bring balance back where it was lost. So if you're someone like a woman in my community who has been doing the inner work of remembering who she really is, releasing all those patterns of generational trauma from the body, mind, and spirit, your karmic retribution is God is bestowing the kingdom upon you right now. You know how excited I am about life right now? Do you know how incredibly grateful I am to God? Do you know how much I see God as a benevolent God, the kindest, most compassionate God? Not all of us feel that way right now because we still have not faced our own demons, our own darkness, our own ways that we chase fame and power. And until you're ready to actually do that, you're going to keep learning the lessons, not just in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime and in the next lifetime. So Libra, reminding us that true harmony comes when we honor our emotions. We're going to talk about that today. Why? Because if you don't honor your emotions and suppress them, you cannot be a fully present person for anyone else in any relationship. And with Venus and Scorpio, this depth of intimacy in relationships is really helping us become the alchemist that Scorpio is. Scorpio is an alchemist, transforms through diving into darkness. Big help with Pluto right now. So as Venus entered Scorpio during this eclipse, Venus being the higher expression of Libra, we're all being invited to look deeply into the shadow aspects of our relationships. It might not be your significant other, although those are the highest form of yoga. It could be your parents, your siblings. What are they moving through? What are they going through? Because that's a mirror that you can actually look within to see how these emotions can be transformed and not suppressed. And although Venus and Scorpio during this full new moon solar eclipse makes us feel really uncomfortable, because it does bring up unresolved emotional wounds, especially if you've been holding on to past pains, this is your crossroads. This is your opportunity to transmute that pain into personal power. We're being reminded that real intimacy requires not just emotional depth, but it requires courage for you to be intimate with you. You cannot fully be intimate with someone else if you're constantly running away from yourself, suppressing emotions. We're going to talk about that in a moment. To be fully seen by someone else, to stop chasing fame, you got to see yourself first in your entirety, shadows and all. And this solar eclipse is not going to let you escape that. So this week's energy is inviting us to shed all of these superficial identities and masks and to embrace our inner truth. As Pluto comes into the last days in Capricorn, combined with Venus and Scorpio, this intensity that is coming to us this week of the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, this is a quest for justice and for pushing us to confront the power dynamics in our relationships and our own pursuit of whatever we believe success to be. And the core lesson here, this is the thing that I reiterated a lot of times in Sadhana this morning, in our community Sadhana, in my academy, and in my community Satori. It's all about self-belief. Fame, recognition, and power are nothing if they're not rooted in a strong sense of self. As we navigate this transformative time, the question isn't about whether you'll achieve success, but whether that success will feel meaningful to you. Do you believe in yourself beyond external accomplishments? Oh boy, was that a lesson for me. This eclipse or this Pluto and Capricorn cycle. I'm a Capricorn, true Capricorn, and that was my lesson. As a top real estate broker that finally found her purpose and said yes to it. The fulfillment that I carry within my heart, thanks to the inner work of Kundalini Yoga Therapy and, of course, in Miracle Spiritual Psychotherapy, allows me to answer that question in truth. Do you believe in yourself beyond external accomplishments? And my answer to that is a resounding yes. Can you say yes? Can you stand in your own power without needing validation from the outside world? That's sovereignty. And with Libra's eclipse, helping us recalibrate where we've been out of balance, in relationships with others, with ourselves, with God, guess what? Now we're being given this opportunity to heal, especially around intimacy and power. We're given this opportunity, this one last chance to transform our relationships with ambition and conviction and success, because this is a cosmic invitation to stop seeking external power and to start cultivating internal strength. That's the solution there. So as you move through this week, reflect, where have you given your power away? Relationships, pursuit of success, and use this week to really realign with your inner truth. And we're going to talk about how to do that, to deepen your own self-belief, the image you have of yourself. And in doing so, what's going to happen is you'll emerge from this very, very intense period. I think we can all agree. Not just transform, but completely empowered, ready to create harmonious, beautiful relationships, conscious relationships, and a legacy that's built on authenticity, on integrity, on sovereignty, and on inner strength. Such a powerful week. And now that we've explored the astrology of the week and this very profound transformation that we're all going through, I want to shift gears a little bit to discuss how this astrological theme this week, how it intersects with our work that we do in our movement of generational healing. So if you're enjoying this conversation, be sure to like, hit that subscribe button, share this podcast episode with others. We are growing this movement of generational healing, and we want to bring all women along with us. So as we shift gears here, let's now move into addressing how emotional suppression in our lineages has basically shaped our families, how it affects our nervous system, and how we can break this cycle once and for all. So today we're going to tackle a very silent epidemic, literally, ironically, that is strangling our spirits and rewiring our brains and nervous system, basically for emotional suppression. In families, I would say that, especially those families that, like in those families, especially where there is a lot of patterns of generational trauma, what we're going to talk about today is actually very, very common. And what I'm referring to is emotional suppression. It's this unspoken rule. So it happens like this. Let me give you an example. A great-grandfather returns from war, burying his pain in silence. You know how many veterans struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder? And back then, especially 2 generations back, they didn't even talk about PTSD. They didn't know anything about it. Or maybe they knew, but they didn't care. Now we understand why veterans suffer so much. Now, his daughter learns that strong people don't cry, just like that. So what happens is that she then passes this strength, and I'm putting it in quotes, to her son, who then teaches his children that feelings are a luxury that they can't afford. And just like that, generation after generation, emotions are locked away, creating a legacy of unspoken pain. This is so common. If it wasn't war, it was tragedies. You know, my grandfather was murdered when my mother was only 2 years old, leaving grandma with 8 kids alone in Mexico, having to figure it out for herself. My grandmother went through so much grief. First, because of the murder of my grandfather. Then, just a couple years later, her son, my uncle, transitioned. Then there was another huge family tragedy that occurred within 2 years. Then after that, another huge family tragedy. Then one of my other uncles died. Then one of my other aunts died. Then one of my other my grandmother had to bury 4 or 5 of her children. She constantly lived in a state of grief. She didn't talk about it. She was a very religious woman, prayed a lot, was connected to God a lot, but really didn't express how she was feeling. She wanted to make sure that my mom was strong. My mom also wanted to make sure I was strong. So it was not acceptable to cry or to, why are you crying? You got to be strong. You can't be weak. And although I thank them for creating the strength in me, what I was basically programmed to believe and to do is to not honor my emotions. So if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling angry, to learn to suppress them as a coping mechanism, because we were not allowed to experience our pain. But what's really happening in the surface in my situation and in so many situations with so many people is that this suppression is reshaping our brains and our nervous systems. Absolutely. When we consistently push down our emotions, our body stays in a state of high alert. The amygdala, which is our brain's fear center, it becomes super overactive. The prefrontal cortex, it's responsible for emotional regulation. It weakens completely. Our nervous system, it gets stuck in fight or flight. Now we think we're constantly under some kind of danger, even if we're in Disneyland or in bed. Why? Because this altered brain state, this becomes the new normal for us. And we pass it to our children, not just through behavior, but through our very biology, because epigenetics studies show that trauma absolutely alters your gene expressions, which affects your generation and future generation. So it's a vicious cycle of suppression, of stress, and of suffering. And as you get to become an adult, the coping mechanisms become more elaborate or different. So as a child, you just learn to be quiet. You learn to not say anything. You learn to not disturb the peace. As an adult, you're drinking the alcohol. You're doing the drugs. You're taking the pharmaceuticals. You are overeating. You are addicted to shopping. You're addicted to toxic relationships. That's the same cycle. It's just that when we get older, we get more creative with the ways we cope. And that's these coping mechanisms, nothing you should be angry about. Coping mechanisms is not the problem. The problem is the pain, right? So we got to address the pain, not why the addiction or why the coping mechanism. Now, from a Kundalini Yoga therapist perspective, this suppression is literally the biggest problem for humanity, and we're just getting started. It's from now, and especially it's going to peak. Yogi Bhajan, who brought Kundalini Yoga from the east to the west, going to peak at until 2038, because suppression of emotion leads to what we call cold depression. And Kundalini Yoga, Yogi Bhajan, bringing these teachings from the east to the west, taught us a lot about cold depression. He basically prophesied that we would be as a humanity all going through this. And as a Kundalini Yoga therapist, I've got to really understand cold depression, depression, and understand it clinically, scientifically, spiritually, and energetically. And cold depression is not like your typical sadness. It's way more impactful, because imagine just feeling numb all the time and disconnected from who you truly are, but appearing completely functional to the outside world. I had major levels of cold depression, high levels of it. So let me break it down for you how it works. I used to. Cold depression is when there's the external demands of life are overwhelming our internal capacity to cope. So we've depleted ourselves and we're running on empty. So what do? That's why a lot of people don't even know they have cold depression. Drink a lot of coffee, energy drinks, or even just stay really, really busy. The way I used to do it is like, not only did I run my own business as an entrepreneur when I had cold depression, but then I was always, I was a functioning person with cold depression, but I was running, my kids' soccer team, and then also involved in every nonprofit and president of these 7 things. Why? Because I wanted to keep myself busy so that I wouldn't have time to face this disconnection that I was feeling inside of me. So many women who have cold depression don't even know they have cold depression, because they are functioning. They're doing massive amount of work and accolades and all these different things, but really they're running from themselves. And the reason why this is called cold is because we can't even feel it. And it's not just a personal issue. In fact, this is something that happens as we transition into a new age. We're leaving the age of Pisces, a 20,000-year cycle, where Darwinian theory ruled of the survival of the fittest, to the age of Aquarius, the golden age of Aquarius. The Mayan called this the sixth sun. And what it is basically, it's community based. It's not just you. You bring others along. And when we go through these transitions, that's when the earth goes through major changes, which is what we're seeing right now. Although I will say that a lot, if not most of them, this is just the beginning of what we're seeing as it relates to phenomena like storms and earthquakes and all of that. Those are man-made. They're created by it's a type of war. It's environmental war. And what they're doing is they're creating a lot of chaos all over the world, not just with like the weather. Look what's happening in the Midwest right now, like Tennessee, where they've never received that amount of rain, or it's happening through riots or any way that they could keep people separate. They're creating like just the way in the world what we're seeing is proxy wars, where it's one entity making two entities fight each other. That's what's happening locally in the world, like in the United States and within the countries. They're creating chaos everywhere. Why? To keep you basically asleep and fearful, especially during this year when we have an election year. So the rates of cold depression are increasing even more. Why? Because it's consumption of information too. It's not just your trauma. Your generational trauma has taught you how to suppress emotions. But cold depression is not just that. It's that plus the fact that we're numb because we are processing more information in our brains in one day than our ancestors processed in their entire lifetime only 80 years ago. So this is a global phenomenon that is a silence of the soul, and it's happening at a massive scale. And you might even recognize it in yourself or others. The workaholic, like I mentioned, who can't sit still, the adrenaline junkie, always chasing that next high. You know, the people that want to jump off skydiving over and over again. The parent who creates drama just to feel something. Why? We're addicted to the cortisol. We've had drama and chaos since we were little. So that's what we're used to. So what do you mean? I need my cortisol shot today, my adrenaline shot today. That's what stress produces. So what does the parent do? Or what do? You create a little bit of drama in your life. I mean, even infidelity. Infidelity has increased due to a lot of different problems. The fact is that the value systems have changed and all that. But like infidelity, it gives people a rush to like live two lives. Why are there more infidelity? Because it's the cold depression. They're like, I need to feel alive. I don't know who I am. I feel numb. So let me add a little drama into my life so that I could feel alive again. Isn't that a trip? Even things that are not good for you. What a trip, huh? But it's this constant need for stimulation, impatience, reactivity. And this is happening because of the information overload, the unrelenting stress that we live under, the rapid changes in our body, mind, and spirits, our nervous system. They're not equipped to handle this modern life without preventive medicine. I'm not saying all of us are suffering the same, because if you have the preventive practice of Kundalini Yoga meditation and spiritual psychotherapy work of A Course in Miracles in community, which is what I have, thank God, then I'm not feeling this way. We're not constantly suppressing our emotions. That adds fuel to that fire. We're learning to feel our emotions, to process them, to not allow them. All of us consume a lot of information every day. I'm not saying now stop consuming information. What I'm saying is that you're in a new age. And if you don't have preventive medicine practices like Kundalini Yoga meditation, that unrelenting stress is going to cause the downfall. It's what we now call burnout. I went through my own burnout, where I was incredibly active and involved in everything, like I shared with you. But then my nervous system completely broke down and I didn't have a choice. I had to focus on my healing because I couldn't even get up. I couldn't go into my regular settings. Strong like me, that was taught to be strong all of our life. The truth bomb is that you cannot power through this on physical strength alone. We need to rewire our brains. We need to reset our nervous systems. And we need to reconnect with our emotional selves. In the Sovereign Sisterhood Movement, in the Academy, we're learning to do that. That's what generational healing is all about. Using the power of Kundalini Yoga meditation to restore your nervous system, to release these stress patterns from the brain, to break the silence of the soul. And we're learning to feel safe with our emotions, to express them in a healthy manner, and to break this generational cycle of suppression. So every Wednesday in my private Facebook group community, which is complimentary and free, to all women, I do a live healing session. And if you want to know more on how to start this journey of not suppressing your emotions anymore, I will say it does start with awareness. It continues with prana and breath and sound. But the real transformation, it happens in community. So join us this Wednesday, complimentary private Facebook group, Sovereign Sisterhood Movement. The link is in the description below, where I'm going to go deeper into this live healing session. And I'm going to actually offer you the techniques to overcome cold depression. There's a specific meditation that we practice specifically for cold depression. So join us there every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And throughout the week, I'm posting even more information on generational healing, because I do know that the Academy is not open for enrollment. And even though Satori is open for enrollment, some of you have never embarked on any type of generational healing journey. That's why the free Facebook group community is there, so that you can taste the water and see if it's for you. It's not for everyone. You have to choose yourself. The ancestors and God choose all of us. But some women are just not karmically ready, and that's okay. But that's where you can explore that and make the decision for yourself. So join us in that free Facebook group community. Now, I want you to remember that your emotions are not your enemy. They're your compass. They're the language of our ancestors. They're your life force. And now it's time for you to feel again, to live again, to break these generational chains of silence. And if I did it, and the women in my community are doing it, then you can do it too. So, after reflecting on the healing power of releasing generational trauma and stopping the pattern of suppressing our emotions, now it's time to receive some divine guidance from our ancestors this week. Now, as always, reminder to all of you, this is what allows the channel to grow. Hit that like button, subscribe, share the podcast with your community, especially if this work resonates with you. Bring other women along. That is the age of Aquarius. So now that we've reflected on generational healing, let's pull back the veil with this Ancestral Tarot Reading for the week, which is guiding us through a very transformative time and helping us navigate these energetic shifts in a way where it doesn't feel like we're learning only through the bulldozer method. The bulldozer method for me is that way that we learn when we learn through hard lessons. God doesn't do that to us. We do that to ourselves. God is love. God is life. And if we can surrender and actually listen, then we can all avoid the hard lessons that we put upon ourselves. So let's look at this week's ancestral reading. So I like to pull a 3-card spread and kind of look at the energy in the immediate past, in the present, and in the future to get a better idea of what our ancestors are guiding us towards this week. And the first card that I pulled for the week is the Two of Swords. Now, in the Two of Swords, immediate past position, upright, what this is symbolizing is a state. We're coming from a period where there was a lot of indecision. Maybe there was even a situation where you were at a crossroads where you had to make some really difficult decisions. This is a time where we're coming from a place where there was a lot of mental conflict, where we were weighing our options carefully, and we were also making advancements in our evolution due to the fact that we were not avoiding making these very life-changing decisions. And this could point to maybe that full moon lunar eclipse that just happened in Pisces on September 17th. So what this is pointing to is balance, objectivity. That's where we're coming from. That's the energy of this new moon solar eclipse, where we are now looking at compromise, solutions, where we are looking at both logic and intuition and using it in order to kind of like put the puzzle pieces together. Because the Two of Swords upright is really a period of us finally coming to our truth, finally surrendering to what was being revealed to us. Now, in the immediate present, interestingly enough, the card that we get also from the Swords family is the Nine of Swords, but the Nine of Swords is reversed in the immediate present. So now we're beginning this period of recovery, especially from things like anxiety or depression, more than likely because we did this. So we're now releasing gradually worry, these negative thought patterns, and these fears that we always thought would manifest. We're now realizing, hey, they're not even true. And we can overcome this. It's like we've realized it's our mind that needed the healing. And that's what last week's reading was also about, where now maybe you're finally getting into a little bit better sleep, especially after the eclipse. You're going to start to feel a lot better with sleep, but you're also getting relief maybe from nightmares that you kept having. You're making a significant shift towards way more positive thinking. And it's not just like abandoning or neglecting or pretending that something didn't happen. It's just that you really have done the work of regulation of the nervous system, perhaps of brain rewiring, of facing those things, where now you're like, okay, discernment. So this card is all about us making sure that we don't stay alone, that we continue to seek support and help from community, from someone else as it relates to these mental challenges, because we need to kind of like really stand outside of ourselves, reverse, and realize that this chapter is actually closing. That's what the number 9 represents. And reverse, it's actually the representation of the beginning of the healing journey, where the realizations are coming to you that guess what? Things are not as bad as they seemed. Very similar to last week, but now this is in the present. This is the beginning of the rest of your life. Now, in the immediate future, interestingly enough, we get the 8 of Wands and reverse. And this card is all about reverse, where there might be obstacles, there might be challenges, but that's not a bad thing, because what it's warning us is against us making hasty actions or decisions. We are transforming at massive levels. Why would you want to rush into it unless you're chasing fame and power? So what this is saying is that with any delays or obstacles in communication, relationships with the solar eclipse in Libra, that they're there for you to slow the F down and to reassess these goals. Because this card represents scattered energies, lack of focus. So it's pointing to misunderstandings, miscommunications, obstacles, not because you're on the wrong path. That's not what this card is saying. It's because of your scattered energy, your lack of focus. You have to let go of that belief that the other shoe is going to drop. So what this card is saying and what the ancestors are saying is like, you've been through a lot of change. So what you need to do now in the immediate future, a period of rest, especially after this eclipse portal, the fall equinox, and this upcoming eclipse, and also better planning and organization, visualization, visualization of your own self-image, and getting clear on your 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan, whatever that looks like, because you deserve it, because you are worthy, not because of the things that you're doing. Remember, we're not chasing anymore, we're aligning. So what I feel like this whole reading is doing is it's reflecting on this very transformative journey where we've all faced significant internal or relationship crossroads. But now we're emerging a period of intense worry, of fears, and the energy now is of release and healing, especially in relationship to our intimate relationships and self-perception. And as we move forward, experiencing delays is not because we're on the wrong path, but because we need to slow down, to reassess, and to really allow the deeper transformation to take place. You can't rush your healing. There's a beautiful song by Trevor Hall. Listen to it. It'll open your heart to the truth that we cannot rush our healing and that we're always on divine timing. So it's so important right now for us to really use this energy, navigating the solar eclipse in Libra this week, to bring balance, relationships, to use this astrological powerful time to reassess our partnerships, to say yes also to the new partnerships that are coming into place. Because if you've done the inner healing work, you don't have to worry about these partnerships that are coming to you. Why? Because you're not the same person. You're not that old person that was a people pleaser, that wanted the fame and power. Now you're authentically you. So that means you're also aligning with really beautiful, authentic relationships. And even though the eclipse might bring sudden revelations of changes that need to happen, you're focused. You're creating harmony from within. You're getting organized. You're creating that long-term vision. So what I would say for this week, some practical steps, be very mindful of what is happening around you and within you, especially the challenges. Because if you pay attention, you can use those challenges and obstacles as mirror work to really understand what's going on inside of you. It's also important for you to engage in activities that promote mental clarity, meditation, journaling, connecting to earth. All of that is going to help you be patient with yourself and others as you navigate this energy this week, because there's going to be a lot of breakthroughs that are going to cause a lot of like volcanic eruptions of emotional suppression. Using this energy this week, it's important for us to really be focused on lingering fears or anxieties as they're coming up, to be okay with sitting with them, to create balance and harmony from within, meaning not rejecting the darkness or the light within you. That's what a balanced, harmonious being is all about. And also in the logical 3D world, to create a balanced schedule that allows for you to be both productive, but also rested. The old way in the old Darwinian Piscean age was about hustle. And it was almost like looked upon as something cool for someone who never rests and just continues to hustle. That's not cool anymore. That's not success. Because like I said, even the most intelligent, most wisest person that kicks ass and puts in all the work, if you do not get rest and if you do not understand that rest is just as important as your productivity, then what happened to me is going to happen to you. You're going to go into burnout and your nervous system is going to completely fall apart. And then you won't have a choice. You'll be forced to rest. Let's not learn through the bulldozer method. Let's learn through love. Let's learn through gratitude. Let's learn through knowing that we're more than enough. Because ultimately, the long-term perspective about all this, especially with this eclipse, is about you using this time to set in motion those plans that align with your authentic self. It's about you using these energies of the eclipse for these unexpected opportunities or insights that might arise, even if they challenge your previous perceptions, to welcome them, to trust the process of your personal growth. Always understanding that we are in cycles. Everything in your life is in a cycle. And that even though they might feel painful, they always will lead to significant breakthroughs. So what I would say is that this week is calling for a delicate balance between action and reflection. And as we move past these periods of indecision, of chasing power and fame, and now embracing mental clarity, we need to stop resisting the urge to rush forward impulsively. We need to trust in the powerful opportunities and new beginnings that are sprouting for us. And we need to stay open to the insights and changes that especially these astrological events are bringing, while we remain grounded in patience and self-awareness. Easier said than done? I don't think so. We can do this. We were born for this. Not only were we born for this, but we have the tools now at our hands to make this a reality and embody it. What a week awaits us. I just want to thank you. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast episode. Thank you for joining our movement of women, breaking the cycles once and for all. I know that from an astrological wisdom perspective, we've gone deep into the depths of the solar eclipse and Pluto, and also generational healing, the suppression of emotions, and then the guidance of our ancestors this week. So I really, truly do hope that you leave today feeling more empowered, more sovereign than ever to face life, to face the challenges, the opportunities with courage and with vitality. And of course, I remind you to not forget to tune in for our live healing session happening every Wednesdays in our private complimentary Facebook group community, the Sovereign Sisterhood Movement. Link is below, as well as all of the other links I shared with you. Until next time, stay sovereign and keep rising in your truth. I'll see you soon. Sadhana.